Okay, call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody here this morning. See, we have the window shades down just to keep the rain out there, Brent. You keep checking on us for us, so we'll be able to open the windows if it happens to clear up before this evening. If you could, would you please rise, and we'll take a moment of reflection before we start. Thank you. I'll ask any of the members of council, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, if it does arise throughout the meeting, it can be declared at any time. There's no closed session, there's no public meetings today, Mark. So we'll go to the consent agenda. I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson and seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that items A1 to C1, inclusive, contained in Part 1 consent agenda, be adopted as printed. And further that authorization be given for the actions to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. Now, where did my pen go? Oh, I had it here. There we are. Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Any comments on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. I'll hand those out to take the actions. That brings us down to communications from Mayor and Council. Is there any council members that have any communications? Anything that's want to inform us of from happenings?
Yeah, just
Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
I want to report on the COPA, that's Canadian Owners and Pilots Association, rust remover session at the airport yesterday, and despite the terrible weather, there were about 125 in attendance. Understand it was a very good session. And also on an optimistic side here, the sky is clearing and the rain is stopping, so I'm hoping that our celebration of 175 years of Durham is in the Durham Park behind the town hall tonight. In case of inclement rain and nasty, it will be inside the town hall. But keep your fingers crossed that we can have it outside. Ron McManus is starting at 6:30 with his wonderful music that he plays for us. At 7 o'clock, the Durham girls will arrive, and from that point on is when the program starts.
Very good. Thanks for the update, Carol. Any other good news? Celebrations? Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
Yeah, yesterday, I didn't get over to it, but Ayton had a historic fashion show take place in the community center yesterday, and I don't have any reports on that, but when I get some information, I'll share it. I had another commitment, so I didn't make it, but I know Mary Lou Peffer did a lot of work organizing that, so hopefully it was a success. Just like to remind people about the clean sweep coming up on May 13th. Encourage all to participate, register at the office so that our roads department knows where people are cleaning up so they can pick up the excess garbage. In Ayton, the fire department's holding a barbecue at noon for those that want to attend there to sort of wrap up. And also it's encouraging if people take on, and a lot of people do, take on the area that they live in and do look after the roads that they live on, keep them clean. We do have signs that you can be ordered through the office to designate that you are looking after a certain area in West Grey. So that's important, and we do encourage people to phone in and let us know where you're working so that we know. And also on that day, on May 13th, that's a Saturday, the hazardous waste program is taking place at the community center from 10 to 2, I believe. Brent is the time, I think, 10 to 2 for hazardous waste.
I'd have to check on that. I don't recall. I'm sorry.
I think that's the time. So anyways, a couple things going on to help keep West Grey beautiful, and hopefully you'll participate.
just thanks Doug for that, and just for clarification, it's the Durham Community Center that's at, in case somebody ends up in Newstead at the community center and wonders where it is. Just, yeah, it was at the Durham Arena. Rebecca, Councillor Herget.
Yesterday, I was able to attend the tea party over in Ayton, and that was a great event. Actually, my parents were in town this weekend, so I was able to take my mother along for this event. There were quite a few people that actually put in a ton of effort. If you say, there was a slideshow presentation, there was a authentic historical fashion show. It was lovely. There was coffee and tea. It was just really a great event to get together. So Mary Lou Peffer, as Councillor Hutchison had mentioned, Joyce Noon, she was instrumental there too. Carol Leibold, the Ayton Lionesses were on cleanup. Everybody was in good company, and it was a lovely get together for being out of the rain. Also, this Thursday is the Optimus Youth Recognition in Ayton, and I've been asked to present the awards to the youngsters there. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jennifer. And I did it, didn't I? I said that that there'd be more than once. That's two. I've got a list going. My apologies, Rebecca. For getting to that and looking after some of the things they couldn't get to. Kudos to the individuals that were able to get to the Warden's Forum a week and a half ago at Cobble Beach. Good day there. Also, Deputy Mayor Bell and myself were able to get to the launch pad as the inspection was going on for Grey County's intelligent communities. Grey County has been nominated, gone through 3 phases so far, and are down to the going to be recognized right now as one of the 7 most intelligent communities in the world. This is an international thing. I'm hopeful that the warden will be able to bring that up here. So the judge was in the county for 2.5 days, was around. So we spent, one of the stops was at Launchpad, and another one was at Cobble Beach. Some of us were able to attend, the Deputy Mayor and I. Was that last Tuesday? Last Tuesday, and then on Wednesday we were at the launch pad, and we were able to have lunch at Noah's Inn with the judge, and Carrie Eady from Gemini joined us as well too, and Rob from Wightman, representative, was there too, the president, and very good showing. So we're hopeful June 6th to the 9th in New York City. We'll find out the results, whether Grey County is going to be recognized as the most intelligent community in the world. We're up against Moscow, Edmonton, 2 from Taiwan, and 2 more from Australia, Sydney and Ipswich. Thank you for that. And so we'll see where we are. It's pretty fascinating stuff. I had the opportunity of being at AMO, had a roundtable discussion a week ago as well too, on what's next Ontario and where they're going with that. Planning towards putting a presentation to the provincial government on municipal financing. Participated in that, as I said, a week ago, and then last week was in Toronto, as I said, on the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards. We had the opportunity to be lobby day or a presentation at Queen's Park with the Attorney General and the Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services to discuss the opening of the Police Services Act. The Minister assured us that that was starting underway, will be passed, the formula or the basis of that happening in June, and then we'll be able to open up open that conversation up in September when they start public consultation on the Police Services Act. So we were able to give, had 2 hours, the chair, myself and the 2 other vice chairs, had a very good conversation of what OEPSB is looking for, changes or inclusions or amendments to the Act as it sits today. It hasn't been opened up, hasn't been really reviewed. There's been a few amendments, minor, since 1990 was the last time, and municipal policing has changed dramatically. Governance is a big issue around on police services boards. So we're hopeful. The ministers were very open, and I had a really good discussion with them there as well too. I say thank you to individuals that represented, as there seems to be so much going on in West Grey, and with the size and scope of West Grey, it's difficult to get from one end to the other. So thank you, and Rebecca, Councillor Herget, thank you for looking after on May the 4th with the Optimist. That's always a very good evening presentation of recognizing those our young individuals in the community. Normby does a great job on that, and I'm sad that I'm going to miss it, but you will represent us very well. Thank you very much on that, and thank you, as I said, to all the other council members that have represented the municipality in the last couple of weeks. Anything else? No? Well then, we have a couple of delegations this morning, and I see that I was able to ramble on long enough to 10:15, and we'll roll out the red carpet for Kim Wingrove and the CEO of Grey County, and Al Barfoot, the warden, have a presentation for us this morning. We welcome them here. If you could go to the podium, would that work well enough for you? And Mark or Carrie? Coming from Georgian Bluffs, the warden will not be used to this much brightness.
I'll refrain from commenting on that.
Welcome this morning, Mr. Warden.
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here and basically just give an update from last year when the CEO and I were present on where we were on our strategic plan. Obviously, County Council has worked hard over the last year, and through Kim's presentation, you'll see some issues that we're working through, obviously, that have some local interest to use as well. Just before I turned over to Kim, I want to thank you, those that attended the Warden's Forum and the Warden's Breakfast last week. And Kim will get into some more details on the ICF and the exciting project that we have going on with that. So yeah, lots going on in Grey County right now. And and would also like to offer congratulations to your new councillor being on board as well. So as I say, lots going on. So without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Kim Wingrove, the CEO, to give that update. And when hopefully there will be a few time for some few questions afterwards, Your Worship.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My pleasure to be here and give you a little bit of an update about where things are, how things are progressing with the county, and as the warden indicated, answer any questions that you might have. Always like to start off with a little bit of context of budget numbers and just the amount of infrastructure that Grey County has around all the various parts of the county. So 2017, our operating budget was $144 million, and we're putting $30.8 million into capital in 2017. We have 877 kilometers of roads. Affordable housing is a question that we're often asked about, and there's a lot of interest out there in making sure that people are appropriately housed. The county does have 888 rent-geared to income housing units and provides further support through various nonprofit partners for another 450 units. These are for single folks, couples, families, as well as many seniors and those that are on disability. We have 5 transportation depots around the county where our maintenance, snow removal activities are based out of. We have 7 paramedic bases that are the places where our ambulances are dispatched from, and 3 long-term care homes. 2017 has been a busy year so far, and we have much work still ahead of us. Some of the key projects that we're working on this year, looking at making improvements to our ambulance service, investments in roads and bridges. The county's been continuing to support our community and the further provision of healthcare services. This year, one specific project was the $200,000 in support that the county provided for the new Chapman House Hospice in Owen Sound. We're also providing support to Grey Bruce Health Services and their hospital campaign. We, through our planning department, are working on projects for the future growth in the county, as well as contributing to the ongoing sustainability of our environment. And many of you will be familiar with the administration building renovation that's happening right now at our main building, and really the most significant reason why that project is moving forward was that the county has a responsibility to have provide court services, provincial offences court services. The current home of that court was no longer, it had reached the end of its really useful life. So we're bringing the court into the new building and then creating some new space to offset that, where offices and such can be housed. We're also continuing with the transit project that was started in 2016. Again, rural transportation is another issue that is top of mind for many people. Working on the recreational trails master plan, more investment in affordable housing. Some of you may be aware that the county has a large quarry on County Road 40 in Meaford, and we're trying to determine what the best use of that is going forward into the future. So we'll be undertaking an assessment of the material that's there and how best to use that particular facility in the future. At council last week, we heard about our ag and local food strategy. So I think we got some interesting information there and set out a direction that we can follow to provide further support and further development to both the ag sector and local food entrepreneurs. And we're also developing a planning application tracking system that may be, I think, useful to your own staff across all the municipalities to be able to see exactly where various planning applications are in process. Sometimes it's challenging to keep track of appeal periods, etc., and this will put that online and make it available to everyone in real time. The ambulance project that I mentioned earlier, many of you would be familiar with the intersection of Highway 6 and Highway 10. Unfortunately, that's a high volume intersection, especially in the summertime. We have a lot of calls there, and looking to see if we can provide more service more quickly to that particular place by moving some of our ambulances out of Owen Sound and into the Chatsworth Transportation Depot. We're just tendering that project right now. We'll see where those numbers come in. As always, summer season means construction, and in 2017, we've got 3 big road construction projects. Grey Road 25, happening middle of July, Grey Road 19, which they wanted to mobilize on today, and Grey Road 18, a little bit later in the month of May, up towards the more northern part of Grey County. As well, when you're going to do roads, sometimes you have to do bridges too. So there are a couple of structures on Grey Road 18, and in Meaford, Grey Road 112 on the way to the Canadian Forces Base. There's a bridge there, that needs to get done. Recolor Gray, many of you would be familiar with that particular project. So this is the official plan update. And we took a bit of a different tack with this. As you're likely aware, every municipality has to take a look at its official plan every 5 years. And when we started this project last year, we really wanted to ensure that we gathered all of the information and insight from the public to make it a more interactive type approach. Oftentimes there's just a public meeting, maybe not as many people attend as you might like. And this was an attempt by the planning department to be much more inclusive and engage many more people in that process. So last year, the planning department attended an awful lot of various community events, fairs, and other meetings, and asked people what they wanted to see in Grey County, in their communities, in the future, really for the next 20 years. So they got an awful lot of really interesting information. The planning department has now sifted and sorted that information into various themes. They'll be bringing that back to County Council for their consideration, and then from that, we'll develop some policies, some new policies, or adjust current policies as required. The official plan will come back to County Council before the end of the year with the idea that they can approve it, and then it can go on to the province for its approval. The Trails Master Plan, Grey County has many trails, and we're seeing that the use of those trails is shared by many. You have the pedestrians, you have the ATV folks, there are people who ride horses, etc. And sometimes those activities don't always align as well as we might like. Each property has its own characteristics. So undertaking the Trails Master Plan is really stepping back and looking at what's the infrastructure that people need or expect around various trails, what uses go well together and which ones probably shouldn't be assigned to the same piece of property, and we're working through that now. Long-term care and services for seniors is another significant piece of work that we're currently involved in. There are 2 meetings planned for the month of May. The upcoming County Council meeting on May 11th. We'll see some new reports come to County Council then. And I think there'll be some significant discussion both at that meeting and at the following meeting on May the 25th. It's at the May 25th meeting that we'll be, I think, receiving some additional delegations. By that time, people would have seen the additional information that's being provided on the 11th and had a chance to consider that information and may have some other questions or comments about it. Again, with the transportation, the Move in GB project, we were fortunate this year to get an additional $50,000 from the Ministry of Transportation to extend that project for another year, as well as expand the geography that's being covered. So that work is happening now, and there'll be a report coming to Council very shortly. We are, as staff at Grey County, very committed to working with all of our colleagues at our member municipalities. We have various working groups. The CAOs get together, the planning staff get together, road supervisors a couple times a year. Our human resources group staff have just initiated an HR working group across the county. With the amount of legislation and regulation that seems to be coming forward on a regular basis, it can sometimes be challenging for people to keep up. If the county can play a leadership role in getting that information out to staff and sharing the products that we've developed, policies, procedures, etc., with your staff, hopefully that gives you a leg up to be able to get moving forward more quickly than you might have been. We also have the emergency management working group out of the county. Very shortly, you're going to see an announcement of the Bruce Gray data sharing and Good Neighbor networks. There's been an awful lot of planning and effort put into creating an open data portal, both for all of our municipal partners to use, but as well the public. So we'll be launching that very soon. Invasive species is another kind of a recurring issue that we all face here in Grey County and in fact across the province. We are working with Grey Sauble Conservation Authority to really map and develop an inventory of where those hotspots are for things like chervil, Phragmites, etc., and then working with our partners to determine the best ways to control the spread of this, to deal with new and emerging locations as they arise. 2016, looking back, if I can, for a moment, at the end of 2016, the county was very honored to receive a couple of awards from our economic developers in the province. The tourism group at Grey County, Brian Plumstead and his staff, they really represent your businesses and your tourism operators out to the rest of the world, and they were honored to receive an award for their Destination Development Action Plan and also for the tourism marketing that they undertook in 2016. So that was great. And then further to what the wardens mentioned, Grey County was very honored to be nominated as one of the top 7 intelligent communities in the world for 2017. The Intelligent Communities Forum, all of that work, I think, really recognizes our commitment to getting people connected to the internet and enabling them to make the most use of new technology, digital technology, and developing a knowledge workforce. So we're quite excited to have been recognized. We have the opportunity to go to their conference in New York in June, and we'll have a chance to really exchange information and learn from the other top 7 communities, as well as many others around the world who are doing this kind of work and pursuing these kind of aims. How do we ensure, as a smaller and more rural community, that people do have access to the best connectivity and the training and education that can go along with that? So that's the end of my presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions or talk about any other subjects that you might like to.
Very good. Thank you very much, Warden Barfoot and CEO Ms. Wingrove. Any questions? Starting, Councillor Lawrence. Carol.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning. I have some questions. I'm sure you know the topic. Would be your long-term care and services for seniors and the issue of Grey Gables and Rockwood Terrace. I'd like to know if the report and the other information that was mentioned at your, I think it was April 13th meeting, you said would be forwarded to the councillors, and I'm wondering if that has happened. There was another report coming in. Has that been forwarded?
No, it has not. CBRE is doing an additional piece of work for us at this time. I expect to have both reports by this Thursday. So as soon as I get them, they will be forwarded to everyone.
And will it then be posted on the county website for public before May the 11th? That was requested by Councillor Fossbrook at that meeting.
Absolutely. All of our reports are public information, and as soon as they're available, the agenda for the May 11th meeting will go out at the end of the week, so it would be public at that time in any case.
Okay, thanks. And my next questions are on the process for this decision. Understanding that it's been made clear there'll be no decision on May the 11th.
That's correct.
Understanding as well that you have 2 speakers from Grey Gables on both the 11th and the 25th, representing Grey Gables.
No, I don't believe we're having delegations on May the 11th.
It's different than the information I heard.
Okay, well, I will check with the clerk's department this morning, but that was not the last discussion.
My understanding
that I
was they asked for 4, and they were given 2 on the 11th and 2 on the 25th.
Okay.
Also, from our own representatives, we understand that on May the 11th, there will be extensive discussions in camera. Will there be any discussion in open session of this topic?
Again, I would correct perhaps the information that you've been provided. I would not suggest that the information that's being provided in camera will result in an extensive discussion. There is some information that has to do with some, of course, as you're aware, what the rules are around going in camera. It's quite a narrow scope that we're actually allowed to be able to, so we'll be sticking very closely to that very narrow scope. So I don't anticipate that the in-camera portion of that meeting will in any way be the majority. We really do want to get all of the information out into public hands, and so the discussions that happen on May the 11th will be in open session primarily.
All right, so from May the 11th, it will be going back, I'm assuming, on the 25th But is it going to council or to committee of the whole? And if it's going to committee of the whole, are you looking for a recommendation on that day to go back to your next council meeting?
I don't want to presuppose council's decision-making. We'll be at committee of the whole on May the 11th. The intention was that we would take some direction from County Council on May the 11th, and I think really we need to see where that information takes us. We know for sure that it will be back on an agenda on May the 25th.
My question was, is it going to council or to committee of the whole on the 25th?
I don't think I can speak to that. I think I will be looking to council for direction on that, so I think we'll want to have that.
But at this point in time, there's no decision, you're saying, going to be made on the 11th, just discussion?
That's entirely correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Rebecca, Councillor Hergert. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming this morning. I do have a couple questions about SWIFT, and I was curious what the next, let's say, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5, 10 years from now looks like. I understand that there is the decision about if we are the most intelligent community, but regardless of that, what is our timeline moving forward to get this infrastructure in place? Because I'm young, but in 20 years, I don't want to be starting this procedure, right? So what does the next bit look like, please?
So as you're likely aware, we received, all of the Southwestern Ontario municipalities received the announcement from the province and the federal government that SWIFT had received its $288 million in funding. Since that announcement towards the end of 2016, there were a lot of negotiations and agreements that needed to be I guess, executed, and I think that's really very close to where they are at this time. Again, Jeff Hogan, who's the executive director of SWIFT, attended the last county council session. County council provided direction that Grey County can provide the support that had been discussed earlier to the SWIFT project. While he was there, Jeff explained the process going forward. So where they are right now, they will be releasing a request for pre-qualification for the various telecom companies to come forward, say that they are interested in participating in the SWIFT project and providing information back to the SWIFT board about where their current infrastructure is and where they would like to take that infrastructure next. With that information, then SWIFT will be able to design, if you will, if I can use that term, kind of the skeleton of where they want that fiber backbone to be, where the existing fiber is and where the gaps are that need to be filled in. When they have done that work, then they will put out an RFP to get those missing pieces of the skeleton filled in by those pre-qualified telecommunication companies. And Jeff's suggestion was that RFP would go out this fall, October timeframe, with the idea that they would start and see actual construction taking place after that. So I would suggest a year from now, they will be busy. But I think it's really important for everyone to understand that what SWIFT is doing is providing fiber. So that's the very high bandwidth infrastructure that then your individual internet service provider can use to provide fiber or provide internet access to your home or to your business.
Okay. Councillor Thompson. Rob?
Yes, thank you. On your presentation on the trail system, are you looking at, is the county looking at a multi-trail system? I didn't hear anything like that. I know you're looking at different county forestries and so on, what you can use it for. Is it a multi-trail system?
I think there are a number of sites around the county where a multi-use trail system would work well, and others where likely we've just given either the topography or the nature of that particular trail or where it's situated, we would not want to be going with the multi-use. It really maybe needs to be restricted simply to people who are walking. But that's really where we need the consultants and our own staff coming together and mapping all of that out so that we're protecting the trails, that we know that we'll be able to maintain them for the future, but that everybody has an opportunity to enjoy them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wonder if you're looking at Bruce County and the way they have set up their trail system. I know there's certain areas you can run, and that's where I actually operate too. But I just wonder if Grey County's looking at this similar to what Bruce County's doing for tourism and so on.
That's what my understanding is as well.
Good.
Councillor Hutchison. Doug?
Yes, I'd like to thank you for coming and sharing this with us. Congratulations on the awards. I think it's exciting that Grey County is an innovator and all around, and to compete with the world is amazing, I think. One of the things, obviously long-term care is a big issue that we're concerned about in our area and that we'll continue to, take part in. And fiber is a big issue. But one of the things I didn't hear, and I just wondering what your thoughts are, is natural gas is another big issue in our area. Does the county get involved in that, or is that left to the local municipalities?
Again, yeah. You'll be aware that Grey County is a member of the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. And I think our primary efforts on advocacy for extending natural gas services have really come through the work of the Western Wardens Caucus. So there's a strong push in that group to see natural gas extended throughout southwestern Ontario, similar to the need for fiber in southwestern Ontario. So we have been working through that, but I'm not anything very specific to Grey County just alone. We've been working with the larger group.
Right.
Just maybe to follow up too, again, there was an email last week came out from the province regarding the expansion of natural gas, and I know we flipped it to the Union Gas representatives and asked them if they were aware of this new program and how it would work into expansion into the future, and they were surprised at it as well, so they were looking into it and were going to get back to us.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? Well, thank you very much, Jim, Al, for coming down today, giving us an oversight of the many tentacles that Grey County is involved in, from ambulance care to transportation to building bridges between all the municipalities in Grey County. If I could add just one little bit to the intelligent communities, I mean, I think that a lot of the focus when people hear about that is, the broadband or the internet connection. And one of the things that I got out of from meeting with the judging committee was how intelligent is the community as a whole, not the infrastructure, but what this community has done, what Grey County has done to address intelligently issues that they've had to face throughout the last 160 some odd years that Grey County's been in existence, and even more beyond that of the population, of how they've addressed issues from, construction to development of products intelligently, and that's a lot to do with it, more specific than just the how well are you connected internet fiber to the world. It's how intelligent have you been as a community, and I think that would like to see that out more, but we've focused in on the right today, but there was a lot more of it of how intelligent from snowmaking in the Blue Mountains to snow removal in West Grey. So it was very interesting having that, and a feather in your cap, Mr. Warden, of being able to get to New York City in June. I think the way it's going, you're not going to see your Rangers in the Stanley Cup parade. But that's not over yet either, so we'll leave it at that. Again, thank you very much for coming this morning, and safe travels for the rest of the day, and thank you for doing the work you're doing for Grey County.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Your Worship, for the invitation. And just if I get on two parting notes, one is I would encourage everyone to Google Intelligent Communities. There's a really good write-up about it as far as, why the program was started up, some information about one of the co-founders, Lou Zaccarella, who was one of the judges that was here the other day. And the other item would be for those attending the OSAM conference in Blue Mountains later this week. I'm not sure if any of your council or staff are attending, but anyway, we will definitely see you there and look forward to attending the sessions with you.
Again, Carol, have you got one last comment, if you
I
could?
just wanted to make the warden aware that in the community of Durham, it's 175 years today since it was founded. Yes, May the 1st,
Congratulations.
1842, and we're having a big celebration tonight.
Good. Congratulations. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you
Okay.
all.
Thank you, Kim. All right. Okay, we have one more delegation this morning. Adele Goldsmith, resident in the former township of Ganelg. Adele, if you could make your presentation. No, because your back is going to be to that camera that is right, and that's why we asked for the podium. So from the and there should be a gray button there. You'll press down on the side. There it is. You
I am
are.
just more comfortable talking to people closely, that's all. My name
way it
is
is.
Adele Goldsmith. I live on Concession 4, just north of Priceville. We bought our property in 1981. We built on it in 1987, and we have been living there very happily ever since. We have cattle farms beside us, across from us, and kitty corner to us, and we have never had any problem with our neighbors over that. We understand completely that people who move into land that is not good for farming, which is ours is a lot of hazard land and a lot of maple bush and so on, have to make exceptions and work with our neighbors to make sure that we all get along well. So this has been the case since we bought. 2 years ago, the neighbor to the west of us put in 2 wind turbines. Not your problem. We know that you have nothing to do with that, and it is what it is. However, on April the 24th, the farm beside us was put up for sale by auction. The bidding went up to $875,000 before it was stopped. It did not meet the reserve bid. So the property for now still remains unsold. We have been told that the people who want to buy the property want to put in a pig barn. The properties around us are also very probably going to go that way. Now, I did some research and I couldn't find anything that talked about the impact of pig barns and wind turbines in close conjunction. I know that our property will be worth a lot less money because of the wind turbines, but I fully believe that if we have a pig barn beside us as well, that will make our property worthless. We don't know the effects of whether having the wind turbines will cause the smell to drift farther or whether it will cause the noise to travel farther. I couldn't find anything on it. I've read all the stuff about setbacks, which are really, really confusing. I didn't get very far with them, I will admit, but I did try. But I could find nothing at all about wind turbines in conjunction with pig barns or poultry operations. So this is a situation that I'm very concerned about for my own sake. I'm also concerned about it for the rest of the municipality. There's, I think, 14 windmills, 13 all along 4 and the ones beside us. Any of those properties could be sold and have pig barns put on them. And nobody knows what this is going to do to the property values or the quality of life of the people around them. We are not anti-agriculture. I think we've demonstrated that by how long we have been here. But we are concerned that nobody is looking at this issue, that nobody is considering what's happening when these enormous industrial-style pig barns and turkey barns are going in. We don't want to move. As I say, we have a beautiful property. We love it. I'm in my mid-60s. My husband is nearly 70. There's going to be a time when we have to move, when we aren't going to be able to manage our property anymore. And if, as we suspect, the combination of wind turbines and pig farms causes the impact that we think it will on property values, we could be financially ruined. We don't know what to do. We really don't. This situation is obviously going to get worse in the next little while. There are more and more industrial-style farms coming north. In the south, some of the southern municipalities, they put a moratorium on it until they figured out how many pig barns or turkey barns were reasonable in any given district, in any given geographic area. If we have three around us, is that too many? Or are they allowed to do more than that? The property behind us is also largely hazard land. You probably know the North Durham line. There's not a lot of farming along there. It's caught between the wind turbines and what is potentially going to be the pig barns. What will happen to that property? Agricultural fact sheet 06027. I'm going to read this because I want to make sure I get it right. It is up to the municipality to create municipal bylaws that provide for the farmer's ability to farm, as well as protect the interest of the rural community. Well, I'm feeling that my interests aren't, at this point, able to be protected because there are no bylaws in place to look after this kind of situation. I've spoken to the ministry. They've said municipal issue because it deals with building permits and setbacks and so on. What I'm asking is that council, before it allows a whole plethora of large-scale turkey and pig barn operations, look at what the impact's going to be, especially when those farms are going to be in close proximity to wind turbines. Because to me, it seems like that whole part of the municipality could just be desecrated. This is a very emotional issue for me. As I say, I've been here since '81. I love my property. I don't want to move. I am hoping that you will be willing to come up with some kind of short and long-term plan to help us protect our property while not telling people they can't farm. We don't want that. But that you will understand what it's going to mean to me and my neighbors if there is nothing done and people can just come in and put in their building permits with their appropriate MSDs, minimum setbacks, and with no limits on each individual property. I was interested in the part about tourism that it was in the previous presentation. If I was a tourist, I wouldn't be all that keen to come to a part of the province that has pig barns and turbines all clustered together. If I was in position of buying a property, I certainly wouldn't buy one that had turbines and pig barns together. And I think I'm probably pretty safe in assuming that neither would any of you. So what I'm asking is that you consider this issue that you do something in the short term to give everyone time to look at this issue more thoroughly, to figure out a way that people like me and my neighbors are going to be able to stay and enjoy our property as well as we can. And then when the time comes that we have to sell, be able to get enough money out of our property to be able to live on in our even older years. Thank you. Oh, I should mention, I do have letters for each of you that summarize what I've said. There is a mistake in them that I just caught this morning, and it wasn't time to correct. I said Southgate had put a moratorium on. I don't know that. What I meant to type was that a municipality south of us, had done that, and so that there is a precedent for this. So I will hand these to clerk.
Yes?
Thank you for your help.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Adele. I don't know whether we have any questions or not. I'd entertain any council member. I think your microphone went off, so you're going to turn that back on. Councillor Cuddy, Bev?
Which municipality south of us has a moratorium on that? Can you tell us so that we can sort of look it up?
I don't know specifically. I have been told that's the case, and that was why one of the ones that was built recently, just off 14, came up as far as it did because it couldn't get permission to build further south. I don't know specifically which ones they are.
And you're saying you're believing that there's a moratorium on large-scale pig farms? Is that what it is? Oh, sorry. Or a moratorium? What is the actual moratorium on?
My understanding is that there is a moratorium on the building of large-scale hog operations for the reason that there were too many coming into one small area and that they needed to sort it out.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to suggest we'll try and find that. If it's something to do with the hog industry, it's a good chance it might be either Perth or Huron County. So we'll
Possibly Wellington.
Might have been in Wellington as well too. Part of that gets into the point of, as you said, MDS, minimum distance separation between residential and farming. Was a lot of that work was done by the University of Guelph for the province, I'm going to say 15 years ago.
Actually, there's been updates since then.
Yeah, but the majority, or the basis of it, started about 15 years ago and has continued to work along. And that was for the right to be able, for farmers to be able to continue their farming practices and whatnot. One of the other ones was the MDS was in, but then the nutrient management plans that come in as well too. And once you get a concentration, you haven't got, there's certain levels where you can spread the manure from those production facilities, and you need what is best practices from the province, and they've laid that out. There's the threshold. What bylaws we could or should or can develop can't be any more restrictive than what the province. That is already, and they've been adjusted as practices have evolved in technologies and different aspects, and you're correct on that, have been amended and keep updated. To your point, we'll look and bring it forward and see, is this a trend that's going to happen? Are we going to be the next Perth County where the majority of hog production is in Ontario? And how are we prepared for it? So I can tell you that point right now. We'll give you that clarity.
Okay, I have to stress, though, it's not just the pig barns. It's the pig barns in conjunction with the wind turbines. It's
Right.
a double jeopardy if we have to deal with, Yes, we'd have trouble selling if we had a pig barn beside us. We'd have trouble selling if we do have wind turbines beside us. But is it even going to be possible to sell if we have a property that has both? And I think that's the point that is missing. People don't understand that 1 and 1 doesn't make 2 in this case. 1 and 1 can easily make 10 because it's the impact of these 2 negatives on our lifestyle that has nothing to do with MDS. It has nothing to do with the bylaws as they exist now, because there aren't any. There aren't any bylaws talking about wind turbines and hog operations. And that's what I'm trying to stress here today, that because of the number of wind turbines that are in West Grey and the number of pig barns that may come into West Grey, these 2 points have to be looked at together, not just as an issue of nutrient management and all that stuff. I have read all that, I understand it, I know it, but it doesn't say a word about the issue of it being with the pig barns, with the wind turbines. And I hope I've made that clear now.
Yes, no, absolutely, and we can start doing some look and working with, the right to farm legislation and what's on there. Don't misconstrue this as, it's possible, and I'm not saying this in any demeaning way or anything. Is it possible that the wind turbines would be a benefit to pig barns? That wind would dispel,
Do we know that? It would be wonderful.
We don't know that. Yeah.
If that was the case, it
Is
would
it
be
a-
wonderful, but we have no proof of any of those things.
Exactly. To the same point, we have no proof that it would. So
Exactly.
let us start doing some research
Could I just
and find
say
out what we can find.
that we need to do, you, pardon me for being really
community.
blunt, the community needs some answers on this quickly. We are facing the sale of this property next to us very soon. The property across from us is virtually abandoned. It too is going to be sold very soon. We can't wait 2 or 3 years, because if we do, it's all going to be in place and it's going to be too late. I need you to understand that this is happening quickly. These barns are coming in really quickly, and the turbines are already there. So I really, as I say, I get very emotional about this because this is my home, this is my life.
Absolutely.
We need you to look at things in the most
Expedient.
expeditious way you can before it's too late.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Adele. Is there any other questions? Doug? Councillor Hutchison?
I'd just like to ask a question to, maybe Mark can answer this. So do we have any regulations now about when someone comes into West Grey and wants to build a large-scale pig barn or turkey barn or chicken barn?
Right, so the building department is responsible for issuing building permits. They look at applicable law, the Building Code Act, the zoning bylaw. Our zoning bylaw includes minimum distance separation calculations, sections that are derived from the province, required by the province to be in the zoning bylaw. So there are setbacks for different kinds of farm operations, livestock barns, including pig barns, that are set out, and you do the calculations through the farm management plan that the farm landowner has to do before they can get a building permit. In that farm management plan, that establishes the minimum distance separation requirement. That's submitted to the building department. If they meet those requirements by law, then of course applicable law is met. The building department then has no recourse but to issue a permit. The moratorium that Ms. Goldsmith talks about probably is referring to Section 38 of the Planning Act, being an interim control bylaw. That's a mechanism where a municipality can pass an interim control bylaw, which in essence freezes a development for a certain use that council, through this process, has to undertake a study or review of, and then At the conclusion of that year, they also have an opportunity to extend it one further year if the review study has been done. But that's premised on a study or review being done. I thought about this matter over the weekend, and actually I did recall that the municipality had passed interim control bylaws in the past. So this morning before council, I did find two instances. In 2009, council passed an interim control bylaw for the area of the proposed Durham Well 2A, which is the George Street area, Cross Street area of Durham. That was premised on Henderson Patton. They were hired to provide a consultant's report on providing some recommendations on how that area should proceed development-wise in order to protect the existing well and a proposed well if it was constructed by the municipality. And the genesis of that, one of the things that happened is the municipality in turn did end up purchasing 545 George Street to protect its interests and to provide an area of land to construct Durham Well 2A, which is in the process right now of being completed. So the other one was in fact in 2003, and it was in fact for freezing intensive livestock operations such as hog or pig barns. That was passed around mid-2003. It was actually, another subsequent bylaw was passed for an additional year. And I don't have I haven't had enough time to research, but my belief is that that was during the time that the overall West Grey Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw, which eventually was passed in May of 2006, was being looked at. And because the municipality didn't have minimum distance separation calculations, didn't have updated or consolidated a zoning bylaw, I believe that's why council did enact that, because there wasn't an actual review or study commissioned by a consultant, but I think that was because the comprehensive zoning bylaw was being worked on. In fact, the other thing about minimum distance separation is that the province, just within the last few months, passed some new legislation regarding minimum distance separation requirements, and that is being looked to be consolidated into our own zoning bylaw. The municipal planner is looking to provide that information and incorporate it into the zoning bylaw. I believe there aren't any major changes with the minimum distance separation requirements, but there are some, and we hope to amend that zoning bylaw to incorporate those. So that's just some information for council's benefit.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Any other questions?
Well, I guess my
Ms.
next
Goldsmith?
question would be, would council be willing to look at passing this interim bylaw until the subject can be examined?
We'll take, I don't think we're going to, well, I know we can't do it today, or we shouldn't do it today, but in the very near future, take a look at it. When we're doing this, what studies would need to be done, the reasoning for putting the interim or the control on the area, and what we're looking for, as you said, and can it be done? You know, as far as the relationship, I think in your mind, industrial sized livestock operations with wind turbine, and I'm taking it, you know, what disturbance or how does that affect, you know, what is the effect of the area? I would presume we would need at least some consultation with an engineering firm as to, is it, you know, possible to find that out? Can you simulate it? Because I'm almost positive you don't want to build 3 pig barns there just so we can study it under the wind turbines. Or is there places in Perth and Huron County where there are wind turbines and it hasn't been something that's been looked at? But what I can say is we will take a look, and within the very near future, and I'm going to say a month, be able to have some information presented as to whether we could go ahead with that type of thing. Just one question. The property I know was up for auction
Yep.
last Tuesday. public auction. It wasn't purchased, so the question back to you is, where's the information coming from that these individuals, the livestock
The
producers,
owner's son, the current owner's son.
has indicated that there's
We have talked to him.
purchasers that are going to build?
Yes.
So they couldn't have been real keen on doing it if they didn't buy the property.
Well, $875,000 for property in farming property in this area is quite a lot of money. And it's not the kind of money you put out if you're just going to grow some crops and have 100 head of cattle.
Well, I know that there have been properties sold. I guess I'm just, but it didn't even meet the owner, so I guess the owner's not willing to sell.
No, the owner was asking a lot of money for it.
Yeah.
And he wasn't prepared to sell for less because he knew what it was going to be used for and knew what they would be making from it.
So, anyway, that speculation. So we'll
Well,
leave that until we can get some factual information
We do
going
know,
forward here.
we do know that that happened. The son of the owner did tell us that that's how high it went and that his father wouldn't accept it. So we have no way of knowing whether his father will try to auction it again in a very short while. We don't know what he will do.
Yeah.
But as I say, there was also apparently some concern about how much land was being lost by the wind turbines, and that was part of their reason for trying to not go as high as they might have. So, anyway,
Okay.
I would strongly urge you to look at an interim bylaw, just to give all of us some time. At the very least, if it's not going to, if this isn't going to be possible that you can do anything about it, at least it would give us time to look at our options and see whether we have to leave, which we don't want to do,
No?
but we might not have any choice.
Very good. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll do some, as I said, give some research and trying to find out what our options and, legally where we can go with it, and hopefully have a report back or some further information on this within the month.
Thank you
I think
very
will be
much.
good. Thank you very much, Adele. Okay. Nothing further on that. Delegations, do you want to take just a couple-minute break for, well, I can do that. Okay, we'll take a short break and be back in 5. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. And we're looking at staff reports. First one is the Director of Finance, and this will be the only one. Some people have been on holidays and working too hard. Carrie's only had audit and 13 other things, but she's got a report here, directors. We have and that is the voucher number 8. I'm going to do this just a little bit different, and I've thought about this for a bit. We should introduce the motion before we have the discussion on it. So that's what I'm going to do. Moved by Doug Hutchison, second by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 8, 2017 of the Municipality of West Grey in the amount of $289,419.33. Any questions or comments on the vouchers? Councillor Thompson. Rob?
Yeah, just on page 1, Carrie, under snowmobiles, unlimited tire and batteries for RTV, and it's under the Durham Fire for 169, but down on the same page, snowmobiles unlimited, same thing for Normanby. Is that a duplicate, or they only have the one that I know of?
Split it up between departments.
Oh, they split it? No, because
maybe
they're both the
just-
same amounts.
Yeah, he maybe
Yeah.
just split it between the fire departments, but let me just check.
Bill split between departments.
Okay. that's, okay, that makes it, I thought maybe it was on there.
That would be my assumption, but we'll just let Carrie check it.
Tire and, yeah. 160, yeah, it would be, yeah, it'd be over the 169. One tire and battery. Yeah, you can get tire
Yeah, it's
for-
one invoice, he's just split the repair between the 3 fire departments.
Oh, okay.
There's also one there for Durham.
Yeah, I have
It's
And
Durham.
one-
Newstead, yeah.
The one fixed, and it's just split between the 3
Yeah,
stations.
wow,
Yep.
fairly hefty.
Well, if he's wanting new tires and put a battery in it. Yeah, so it's not a tire, I think it was tires, so if you put 4 new tires on it, that's what it'd be. Councillor Lawrence, Carol?
So I just have a couple of comments, Carrie. On my page 5, under Recreation Normanby Arena, there's the town crier, and it's billed to Recreation Fundraising Expenses Normanby. Can that also say that's Canada 150? Okay, so that goes under the Canada 150. And again, on my page 6, Tom Culleton postage stamps, $96.05 under the Newstead Recreation. What is that for? Yeah, I'm wondering if it's the newsletter that goes out for Ayton. Pardon me? 9605. Postage stamps, April 18th.
Is there any invitations go out for the craft show?
They've gone long ago. Like, and Tom doesn't. No,
Did he have
like,
stamps? Yeah,
we've
that's-
already paid postage through here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that,
to
the only
Brenda
one I
and
was wondering.
Kathy, yeah.
yeah.
But Tom does send out a newsletter for
Mm-hmm.
Ayton, and I'm just wondering if it's just got into the wrong.
I got flipped to Newstead instead of being
Yeah.
in Eaton.
He doesn't have a department listed, he doesn't say which one it is, but I can double check. with
Would
him
you,
to see.
yeah, because I can't think of anything for Newstead that would be there. And then my last question on page 8, and it's postage by phone, $10,170. How long a period does that cover?
That will get us, depending on if it's, if we're doing tax bills, but that'll get us 3 to 4 months.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah, no, but if we're doing the tax bills, you got 7,500 tax
Yeah,
bills.
yeah.
Water bills, and then
Yeah.
the accounts, so it
Oh,
just depends on,
Urgency, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious because it's such a large amount, and I didn't think it would certainly be a year, so it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's sort of like hydro, it keeps going up.
Well, yeah, that's, the cost
Yeah.
of the postage is.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions on the accounts? Seeing none, I'll call the question then on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Any other questions, comments, Carrie? Other than that one that you usually have at the
Yes.
end of the month or start of the
Just
month?
to remind everyone to submit their timesheets before you leave today.
Yes, it is. Have any been handed in already, Carrie? Please?
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often that the mayor has his in early. Like, matter of fact, it's rare. And I did find a couple of minutes this weekend, so. Because Carrie reminded me when I was leaving on Friday. Okay, thanks, Carrie. All right, that's it for staff reports. Then we're down to bylaws. Mark, we have 4 bylaws here, so can we introduce those? Starting with bylaw number 39, I guess was one that was tabled. There was some more information, Larry, and you're still getting that together on PTSD?
I do have some background information on that. I don't have a formal report done, but I am also aware that we can bring somebody in. There's an expert at the county who's done work there, who can come in and speak directly to council should they so desire. This is part of Bill 163, which was passed in 2016, and it is the first in a stage of additional coverage for our employees to cover the post-traumatic stress disorder issue, which seems to be becoming more rampant with first responders. And this specifically deals with first responders. It dictates who is covered right in the legislation. And that would be fire, police, dispatch, that sort of thing. But I would be prepared to try and answer any questions that council may have in regards to it.
Go ahead, Carol.
Oh, well, my question, the last time this came up, and you were going to check with other municipalities, because this one not only covers them when they're in their employment, but at home. And was that the common theme, that they're covered for any incidents at home under this coverage?
I believe the way the legislation is written, it would cover them at home as well. Because often, for example, I will use another example that we have had in the past, and that's with firefighters who suffer a heart attack after an event. They're covered because it's proven that, or it's been proven that it's a result of the activity that they were just involved in with the fire service. So if there was a critical situation event and they didn't succumb to it at the time, afterwards they succumb to it, then they would be covered.
So is it limited then that it's related to something that's happened at their employment? Because you could certainly have an incident at home that would cause that had nothing to do with your employment.
I am not prepared to say yea or nay to that at this point in time, but I can follow up and answer that as you wish, and as you wish.
You were going to check with some other municipalities that
I certainly
had this
was,
in place,
yes.
yeah, and just to see if that's the common
Yes,
thing. Thanks.
no problem.
Okay. I don't think that there's enough information at this time to lift that bylaw, so there's no time frame set on it. We'll defer that one and see if we can have it at the next one. Larry?
Did you want me to bring somebody in to speak with council, your worship?
I think it would certainly be a benefit. As I said, the county has dealt with that. Can confer with the deputy mayor. We had a bylaw and resolution come forward in a presentation by the director of paramedic services at the county and how the county has set it up. County has to set it up because of paramedic services. Municipalities that have fire and or police, you have to have, from my understanding, the bylaw and the policies in place through that. So we'll do a little bit more research on that. Larry, Bev?
Yeah, we can do some more research. Obviously, my thing is that if you get somebody down who is a service, what would you say, emergency services head? Yeah, okay, well, it's going to be the most comprehensive post-traumatic stress disorder package that you could possibly ever get. My concern is that we already have something in place through the program for the employees, for the police, for the fire. My concern is that do we need this great long document, 8 pages, giving all the specifics as to where, when, why, and how, when we already have a program in place? I think we should get it narrowed down to a 1-page document. This is what we have. We've offered this program, and there it is. Not because as soon as you add this, and the whereases and the therefores, it becomes far too onerous, and we're going to end up paying big. So I think we need to be a little bit careful as to what we're introducing here, since we've already put it into place.
Question was asked at the county on that very same topic, and 2 different things. Employee assistance programs is a help, but it doesn't meet what the legislative regulations are going forward on this PTSD. And I fully hear what you're saying, but from the information that's derived from the county and what they've done and what is being legislated coming down, the presumptuous, you need this in here to meet your requirements for a police and fire service. having the employee assistance, that's very good, but there's more background in depth on identifying, having groups set up and that to meet the requirements of what the legislation is.
But who's reading that legislation and putting this forward to say that this is what's needed?
Who would be reading it? Would be your police chief, would be the staff, and coming from the ministry on their interpretation as the enforcers of the legislation.
Is there an outsider who's looking at this to see exactly how this sits and, you know, basically tearing it apart to see what is and what isn't?
I couldn't answer.
That's the trouble.
Until we get to the county to find out, yeah. Carol?
I just wondered if the counties includes home incidents. I wondered if the counties includes home incidents like
Yes,
this
it
one.
does. Yeah.
With no referral that it
Because the
must
way-
be an incident at work that's caused it?
I'll say this one, the way that the presumptuous identification of this is, it could be a incident at home that sparks a memory of an incident that happened at work 10 years ago. Yep. I mean, it has far outreaching implications in this, but I guess one of the best explanations of it, you know, for a number of years, you know, it's in the language today, we say that an individual has gone postal. You know, it was always post office incidents where you had violence in the workplace. What set this, you know, what set the individual off that they went and that phrase come out postal? It has been documented in medical jargon that it's something that happened 10 years ago, whether it was a dog chase, you know, I don't want to get specific, but that thing, and it set the individual off on mental health and off they went. And we've heard the same thing in emergency services with policemen that have walked into a station, been fined for the last 3 years, you know, never, and pulled their gun out and started firing.
So given your explanation, it could very well be an incident that happened in other than our employment, if it was 10 years ago when it triggers.
Absolutely.
And we're on the hook.
Quite a bit more now we're looking at, and I think services will be looking at, doing an extensive psychological analysis of individuals. And this was a question that came out before they take employment. We've done it, something I wouldn't say similar, but it has the same context. A number of years ago, Grey County had a number of individuals that worked in the public works. Near the ending of their career, their hearing, you know, they had hearing problems. Did it come under the benefits? And it was challenged by the benefit provider, but the county had not done any base of where the individual's hearing was before they started, so totally on the hook. At that point in time, the county then put in anybody that is being hired by Public Works and a number of other departments. There's a list that you must go through to find a baseline of where is your hearing, where is your eyesight, because it's coming through now, but working on screens, you know, that it has affects some people's eyesight. So where was your level before you started working with us, and where is it as you're exiting the employment on the benefit package? And that's what I see happening in the emergency departments, that there's going to be this level of screening on individuals before as they're hired.
The emergency department will just be a start, though, we understand that. That's just a ball that's going to keep rolling.
Yep. And I mean, we have it already in administration in emergencies for dispatch of what individuals are hearing, and it's been granted a couple of PTSD off from what has come through on the dispatch thing. So stay tuned. I think we need a little bit more information. So having that, getting somebody from the county, Larry, would be good. Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
Yeah, I'm just curious. How much input or how much study has our fire chief and police chief done on this? Have they had a chance to look at this and have input?
I can tell you, police certainly has. Larry, further? I don't know whether Phil
Thank you,
has.
Worship. Yes, the countywide fire chiefs have looked into this. They've had meetings on it. I know the chief has attended a couple sessions in regards to this PTSD, and the package, the bylaw that's before you today, was actually generated by another community and modified to suit the West Grey environments pursuant to the chief and his team opinion. It's also being used in another 2 or 3 communities surrounding us as the basis for their PTSD program as well.
Doug, go ahead.
So further to that, then, so Homewood seems to be the company that's providing this service, right? It's Employee Assistance Program.
It's one we're contracted with, yes.
Yeah. So would it be worthwhile having a representative from Homewood come and talk to us, and whether it'd be valuable to have our police chief and fire chief in on that discussion, just to see where they're coming from and have some questions about the program?
I don't think it would, because, as I said, it's not, Homewood's recognized as having, some support and whatnot. This bylaw is more towards what the legislation is, of identifying in the workplace of where you're going to be, not Homewood of what they can offer once an individual, but it's more identifying and having policies around the workplace. One officer recognizing, and how you bring that forward and work like that. So Homewood is recognized as a support, but this is before the individual gets to the legislation surrounding this, before they get to the support level. Bev?
Homewood is also a provincial enterprise.
Facility, yeah.
So they're going to go directly by what, they're going to give you all the bells and whistles for this new legislation. So I don't think they're really the one to come up, and I don't think they would come up anyways, but I don't think they're the one to get the ideas from.
Okay. All right. So a bylaw that we've left tabled, we've had a heck of a good discussion about it without lifting it from the table. But the bylaw itself, I don't think we need a lot more background, so there's no reason to lift it at this point in time. Get a few of those things for the next meeting would be appreciative, Larry. Okay. We have 3 other bylaws, 45, 46, and 47. So we have those. Bylaw number 45 is for a contract weed inspector. I have the motion moved by John A. Bell, seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 45, 2017, being a bylaw to enter into a weed inspector enforcement contract position with Jennifer Watson, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions or comments on this bylaw? Go ahead, Bev.
She is going to take the course for this, obviously.
I believe
She did go to the conference a couple weeks ago.
And is there is some sort of documented certificate for this, though, correct? To be an actual...
I don't believe so, if that's...
Because is she just reviewing the weeds, or is she going to work to get rid of the weeds?
She will identify if they're noxious weeds or not, and if they're noxious weeds, she'll give an opportunity for the landowner to remedy it. If they don't proceed with remedying the situation, then an order will follow.
Because a typical homeowner would not have the access to the chemicals that would be required to remove some of these noxious weeds. That's what I'm saying. So if Jennifer Watson doesn't have the ability to remove it, who is going to do that? She can identify them, but does she have a license to actually do it?
If chemicals are needed, often the plants themselves are physically removed, but if chemicals are needed, they would enlist a weed control company to do the work for them.
Okay, because an actual homeowner would never get rid of these. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that she would be able to give recommendations of, what action to be taken, similar to what we've always had. It's not, if it gets to that level, would give a recommendation to the municipality, hire that person to get rid of this, and we bill it back.
And
Mark?
she does have the opportunity to refer to an individual at Grey Highlands, a Public Works employee that is also a weed control inspector for Grey Highlands, so she has that individual with a little more expertise that she can fall back on.
And who actually will pay for the removal? Like Phragmites, for example, they're a 3-year kill project. You have to spray them once, go through, spray them again, go through, spray them again. So who's going to pay for that? I mean, even if it's on private property, it's not her fault or their fault, and...
That's not necessarily.
Well,
Could be their fault, but
it could be, but you know what I mean? But
I know,
we're
spread.
trying to stop the spread of it in West Grey. So who is actually going to be responsible for paying for that 3-year program of actually getting rid of these?
If it's on landowner's property, the landowner would be, but Phragmites is problematic, especially when it's associated with waterways, because you really can't spray it. Owen Sound, I know, being in Owen Sound, they've been cutting back, burning Phragmites near the Potawatomi River. I've noted that it's still down, but I don't know if it's coming back up. I know the first year it came right back up, so it's very difficult. I know the conservation authorities are also dealing with it, so it's one of those issues which is going to evolve over time. Hopefully some things can be implemented. As you recall, the purple loosestrife, that was a big issue, and then they introduced some species that, I guess, ate it in essence, so it seems to be under control. A lot of the area, we haven't had big issues with purple loosestrife here, but Phragmites is definitely a quite difficult species to address. But we try to work with the individuals, and obviously you have to have some compassion with not only municipalities are having issues trying to deal with it, not only landowners, and so we will try to work with the individuals as well as we can.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. The next one is a bylaw to assume part of the highway. Mark, you've got the understanding on this
Yeah,
one?
I did get a letter from Solicitor Michael McGarry, acting on behalf of his client that was looking to sell the land. It was discovered during the title search that this was a property in Glenelg that was created through severance. Quite often, or at times, the municipality would require road widening at the time, which the township of Glenelg did. However, they either failed to pass a bylaw to assume that road widening, or failed to register the bylaw on title to assume that into the road system. So I had this reviewed by Ian Johnson, our solicitor. He provided a more complete legal description, and there's no issues with the municipality assuming it into the road system, so I would recommend passing it.
So I have a motion moved by R. Herget, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 46, 2017, being a bylaw to assume part of PIN 37230-0051, being part of Lot 48, Concession 2, EGR, Geographic Township of Glenelg, being Part 1 Plan 17R2227, now in the Municipality of West Grey, County of Grey, as previously described in Instrument Number GS 153907, into the municipal highway system, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions on that? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. The next one is the confirming bylaw of the actions in today's council. I have a motion moved by Doug Hutchison, seconded by John A. Bell. Be it resolved that bylaw number 47, 2017, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the May 1st, 2017 council meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. There we are, Mark. Any new business? Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
Thank you. If I might, I'd like to ask Brent about the tender for the the work in Newstead that Kelly Lantz was doing. My understanding is Kelly's contract was up yesterday, April 30th. The tender doesn't close until May the 11th, and I would assume then we would be dealing with it on the, what would that be, the 16th as a council. Is it possible in the meantime to extend Kelly's contract for half a month to a month? We have a craft show, like part of Kelly's work, and I have another question on this, but Kelly's work is to do with the getting the tables down from the mezzanine in the Newstead Arena and then putting them back. And that has to be done this weekend for the craft show. It has to be done on May the 27th for the Lobster Fest. And in the meantime, the park desperately needs cleaned up before the 16th, before that tender would be awarded. So I'm wondering if there's any possibility of extending his contract until that time.
If I can comment to that, Councillor Lawrence, before I left, I looked after that. Tom has engaged Kelly Lawrence to pull the tables down for this event coming up.
But not for the park.
The park he is going to engage Kelly to start doing, Tom indicated to me he's got baseball starting shortly, so he's going to get him to cut the ball diamonds and the parks in Newstead.
Ball diamonds are not at the park, they're at the arena.
Well, he's going to, in conjunction with cutting the grass, he said he's got balls starting next week, is what he indicated to me. And I said, what does the park look like? He said, it needs to be cut too. I said, then get Mr. Lawrence, if you can, to have him cut the grass at both those facilities.
Okay, so that therefore it's not extending his contract, but he'll be doing the work and billing the municipality.
That's correct.
Separately.
That's
My next
correct.
question is, I haven't seen the tender, does it include the work at the arena of putting the tables up and bringing them down? Does it include that?
What I did, Councillor Lawrence, is he presented to me back in February a quotation. It was quite an excessive amount of money. And I looked at the work that was done through that quotation that he did in Newstead. And I thought it would be more efficient to piece out the grass cutting, the winter control. I've talked to other staff because I know he looked after watering the plants and a few other things. I know he did a few other things. I just thought there would be more efficiencies and that the municipality could save money by piecing out some of the larger parts of the work that he did. For example, the grass cutting, and in particular the winter control, because I want to look at winter control, like the sidewalks and the plowing and things. There are other parts in West Grey that we don't have really specific contracts for snow clearing and things like that. I'm looking at trying to, if you want to call it, be more transparent and have these contractors that are doing work have that they're properly insured and the municipalities covered. And
Well, I think on that Kelly's properly insured, but my question deals with the arena and the putting up and taking down of those tables. In his contract, I believe it allowed 20 times. Have you put that out separately? Because it's used and we use it 20 times.
I have staff looking at local contractors in Newstead of doing that very thing about looking after the arena as far as raising and lowering the tables. I asked Mr. Lawrence if he would consider doing that, and he said no, he was no longer interested in doing it because I parted out the work. He is fully can look at tendering these pieces as I put out, but again, I'm looking at a large sum of money that he quoted. I just felt that I would like to look at tendering these pieces out.
Well, I just want to point out that unless it's a local person in Newstead that has that forklift that can do it, like just for instance, on Saturday, we have a craft show that's over at 4:30. We have a function coming in at 8 o'clock, and it'll take at least till 5:30 till the crafters are gone. Then Kelly has to come in and put the tables up. Then the floor has to be scrubbed, which takes 2 hours, and be ready for an 8 o'clock rental. So if that person is not living in or near Newstead that's going to look after those tables, it's not going to work. And we often need it in that kind of time frame. It can't just be, well, we'll take them down today for tomorrow, because you've got functions happening every day. So I really have a concern, Brent, about that, unless, like, if it's somebody from Hanover, let's say, or Ayton, that's not going to work very well. We, in the past, and I don't know if you know the history there, but they had their own forklift. And we had numerous problems and numerous expenses, which Kevin, I'm sure, can attest to. And this was the best solution that we came up, and it's worked wonderfully well. So I was hoping it was included in the tender. I didn't realize you had split it up like that.
Again, I'm looking at the economies of scale and trying to do what I think is best for the municipality. Having said that, I do have 2 individuals that Steve Earhart was going to contact, and have been in communication with Tom about approaching these people that have machinery that is capable of doing what you're suggesting at the Newstead Arena for that very reason. Okay, so I am working on that. I just wanted to let you know that that hasn't gone undone.
How are you dealing with the flowers and so on there? Like Kelly has in the past at the arena and in the park and so on. Is that in a separate call as well, or is that included with some other part, like all of the work, other than, I'm not talking about necessarily the watering, but the, looking after them and so on?
In talking with Steve, and this has been discussions that I had with Steve probably about a month ago, when I was considering doing this, I asked them the very thing. I said, can your staff look after Newstead? And he said, Brent, we drive by there every day. And I said, do you have the means to do it? And he said, yes, we can do it. So I'm taking Mr. Earhart's word on it, because he's been doing it for many, many years, and looking at how much is it going to cost a student to go around and water and look after the gardens in Newstead. Again, I'm looking at it, this is just for 1 year, Councilor Lawrence. If it doesn't work out, I'll look at it, but I would like to have the time to evaluate and see if we can't, if there's not money or savings to be had there under this work. And from my recollection, or from my understanding, this work has never been tendered. It's just been quoted, and it's just been one person. So as part of transparency, I just thought, let's tender it and see what happens. And
Except you haven't tendered it as it was done. You have split it up, right?
Correct. It would have been a very complicated tender. And as I said before, I took out the parts because I was doing an urban and rural grass cutting tender. It was easy for me to take those components out of the Newstead work. The same thing with respect to the winter control work that's being done in Newstead. We have if council will recall, Ayton, we had to get a different contractor in the middle, was it the middle? I forget, December, to get somebody different in to look after the sidewalks in Ayton. I want to review that again, because it was just a quote. It was just to get us by last winter. I want to package winter activities into one tender, and hopefully again look at whether or not municipality can save money.
My only concern around winter control, and that is, again, that the parking lots are done early and late at the arena, because, you have functions going all the time, and sometimes they would be left then, if it's our own people doing it, till the end, till they get some of the streets done. Well, you know what happens. You have to have that clean, you have to have it salted. Somebody comes in and slips, you know where that takes us. So that's something you're going to have to keep an eye on, Brent, that that Newstead Arena is busy every day, honestly, and at night. So there has to be some sort of mechanism that it gets plowed when it needs plowed, not 2 or 3 or 4 hours later.
That'll be my responsibility to include that as part of the wording in the tender, that the vernacular be in place to make sure that the municipality is covered for all events and that
Right.
timelines and when they're to start and
So
things
was
like
that in the tender?
I haven't tendered that portion of it. The only
Okay.
part that I've done is just the grass component. Everything else is still unknown at this point in time.
So what have you tendered for then?
Just the grass cutting. Just the grass cutting in Newstead alone. The flowers have been looked after. So the flowers are going to be
Right.
dealt with by Parks and Rec. Right now, as I said before, Kelly Lawns is going to do the tables and chairs for
Today,
this
just
for this event.
Just for this time.
For this event, this coming up. And Tom is also looking after calling up Kelly again to cut the grass in the for this until we get the tender closed. I did not know grass was going to take off as much as it did recently, but I apologize. I'm a little behind on this particular tender. But after, I think they close next May 10th.
11th, I think.
May 10th, my tenders close. They close, but I won't have a report to council till the council meeting on
16th.
Thank you. To have a council approve the tender work there.
Okay, thank you.
Bear with me, give me some time. I am working at trying to get some of those concerns that you're worried about. I'm looking at getting things in place, working with Tom and Steve and myself to work towards getting something that's going to be there for the future. Okay?
It will be interesting at the end of the year of your review to see individually if you're less than what Kelly cited. It'll be interesting to see. I think he's done a tremendous job, actually. And I understand why you have to tender, but I wish it had gone out in one. But that's up to you. That's your department.
I have heard nothing but good reviews from Mr. Lawns, but again, I just thought it was in my duty to do what I thought was best for West Gray and look at tendering this stuff out.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brent, and that's what we have you hired for, is to look after those things. We won't interfere. Just do an overview of how the department is being handled. Thank you. Okay. Any other new business? There's no closed session. Moves us down to question period. Marion? Got a question for us.
I'm Marion Ratcliffe, for the records. I just wanted to speak in support of Ms. Goldsmith that was here earlier talking about the wind turbines and the pig barns and stuff like that. I support residents. I actually support the farmers too, because I do understand that, we need to, put these kind of barns in and that to get business. But what I want to speak to council about is being proactive in the bylaws and to look at that. And I had a question, and that was, I heard Mr. Mayor here say that we couldn't be more strict than what the provincial government, and I thought we couldn't be more lax. We could always be more strict, but we couldn't be more lax.
In most bylaws, you're exactly right. If it's a speed limit, use that as an analogy. We can drop it down. But when it comes to the farming legislation, we can't put more restrictions on the minimum distance separation, on the nutrient management. That's where it is.
Okay.
It's pretty much specific to the right to farm legislation, because it was, quite frankly, all over the map until the province came in with this and give us definite guidelines. Here is the guidelines, and you shall follow them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just wondering if, because I wasn't sure, is it better to put them all in one place? I wish we had force field technology and then just, but get them
Yeah.
all in one place, or whether it is better to ask them to please try and spread it.
Concentrate or diversify?
Yeah, I don't know that it really works either way. I just know that if you've been in Hanover when they're cleaning out the barns out there, if you've been in Arthur with Altreat, you know, I mean, it isn't just the people living right next door. It goes for miles.
Absolutely.
So,
And I lived for a number of years on a dairy farm, and I had a neighbor that had a pig farm. You could definitely tell when he started spreading manure.
yeah.
But, you know,
But
it's one of
is
those
there
things.
anything in the bylaws that you could put with respect to odor, like, is there any little fine tunings that you could do with respect to when they spread the manure? You know, like the wind speeds need to be down or something, anything that would just help the people in the community. And that, because we got to live, we have to live together, we have to work together.
And those amendments that Mrs. Goldsmith spoke of that have been amended within, as new technologies have come along to reduce odor, reduce sound and whatnot, have been incorporated into the right to farm legislation that is transferred over into the building code. And it is in a number of those places, you shall use noise reduction purposes and whatnot. So they're there, and it keeps advancing as we've gone along.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marion. That's it for questions. Seeing as Marion's the last person here, so last one standing. Yeah. So you know where the next stage is then, eh? Yeah, Don't want any more questions from you? Get her in here. Yeah, okay. That will be an opportunity in 2018. No municipal act notices, Mark. So then we're down to adjournment. Rebecca moves motion 20. She's a newbie yet. She's catching on, eh? We'll get her. Yeah, give her a little bit. Thank you, Rebecca. We'll accept that, and we'll stand adjourned until the next meeting on May 15th.